Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lamont Weber, and we have the great privilege today to be with Nina Gonzales of the Los Angeles, California area. And Nina is a targeted individual. We have a full scanning study of her, which we're including in the link to in the video description and also in the article accompanying here. And perhaps you can hear there's sort of a feedback, a humming noise coming in. And we just ask the viewers to bear with that, since that is the perps, the electronic harassment perpetrators that she is subject to, that are interfering with this broadcast. That is something that Exopolitics TV is not doing, that Nina is not doing. We had perfect reception in setting up this interview, and that's just coming in. Nina, I'm going to hand.
Hold for a second.
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry about that. Okay, I just turned off to make sure there's no notification to interrupt.
And so that humming noise is the perps trying to interfere with this broadcast so that listeners will not be made aware of the constant harassment under which targeted individuals live with this directed energy weapon, remote directed energy weapon, and implants harassment. Nina, over to you. Could you tell us a bit about your history as a targeted individual and the state of, what it's like for you, what your life is like as a targeted individual under which you live? Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to try and make a very long story. It's probably complicated. It ranges about 10 years. It started in January of 2009. I was basically a target. I thought I was a target by myself. And it happened when my baby sister committed suicide. Her name is Sherry Nicole Rogers. And it happened when she was in Atascadero in San Luis Obispo County. It's an unincorporated area. And so therefore the sheriff's department handled the coroner's duties. Okay, she was a TI, unbeknownst to us. We didn't know anything. I knew things were wrong. But then after that, that's when everything happened. I have a semi-complicated life because of my late deceased husband. His name is John Joe Alamillo II. His birthday was August 4th, 1954. He passed away in August 29th in 2013. No, it's 2012. Okay. He's got like over 200 family members. I'm kind of trying to figure out how I want to kind of segue into it. My life really got more complicated when around March of 2012, and this is controversial and it's going to cause problems because it's including more than one country. It's including the United States and also Sweden. When I went into the coroner's or the deputy coroner's office, I was trying to see my sister. I wanted to say my goodbyes. They wouldn't let me do it. They said you had to have $325. But anyway, that was about the time when I was leaving. 3 weeks later, the deputy coroner, he was a deputy coroner at the time. His name, he's a Canadian national, but you know that they kind of bypass things through nepotism, through his father. I believe it was his father who has passed away. And also he was married to his wife there at the sheriff's department. But anyway, he asked while I was leaving, because I was asking questions about her death and something about strangulation. But anyway, that's when he asked if he could give me a hug goodbye. And this is a guy who deals with conducting autopsies and is kind of a germaphobe, doesn't want to touch anyone, doesn't even want to touch doorknobs, things like that. And is standing there asking if he can touch me and hug me goodbye. as I was leaving, because I went to their compound trying to see my sister, just so that they can pretty much talk me out of it. And that's when I contracted what they call, the military, DARPA calls neurodust, the nanotech neurodust. And I started feeling the effects. I was at my sister, remember this, at my sister's house for 3 weeks, nothing. But when I was going home, when I was going back to LA, that's when it started. It does not take very long. There is no 3-week, duration. Anyway, so that was the start of part of my journey. And anyway, and then I had to learn that this was not natural, it was not biological. I wish it was, because you would have had, it would have taken care of within a week. I've had this now for 10 years and going on more than 10 years now. But that's when I found Dr. Staninger and all of that. But I'm trying to kind of jump way ahead. Also, my husband, he this is the other part. I wasn't basically living with him, and he was, I wasn't living with him since like March, or it was May of 2007, because he had a lot of problems, him and his family, and I couldn't stand him. Anyway, he was arrested in the same month my sister passed away, shortly afterwards. And he was living with his mother, he was arrested, and all this stuff I didn't really know about. I was in Atascadero, and I was finding out about it while I was up there. Okay, so I'm gonna try and move forward. Basically, what happened is, I've been kind of controlled throughout this whole time, even before I became a target, with my husband, because he had a prior record, and everyone was always trying to, including my employers, people that I worked with, the FBI were always involved, and they're all trying to get me to leave him and go away from him. And I just feel like this is a soap opera. But with all that, he was arrested and he was gone for a very long time, and he had a drug problem, and I really did not want to be around him. I did not want to be around that. I did not want to be around him. That problem, that whole issue. I was also trying to find a cure and solve my Morgellons. This was a big thing for me, an obsession of mine, and I realized it was mechanical. This was not something that regular medical doctors they cannot address it. They don't have the education, they don't have the training. This is a specialized skill. It's almost like taking a mechanical engineer and then using very specialized technology that's very expensive in laboratories, and then creating these things, which I basically call now, they're taking an exoskeleton of some creature, like it could be an insect, adding silicone to it to kind of make it indestructible, and then mechanizing, using, say, for instance, an insect's properties to kind of sort of replicate, and we already know, kind of act like chips. And that's where you'll see all the signals, is giving off signals. So anyway, and that's how I got in contact with a physicist in Sweden. And because they were touting, that they had people that their husbands were won Nobel Prizes in medical science, stuff like that. And I was looking, because I realized it took a couple of disciplines. It wasn't going to take a regular doctor to solve this, fix this, heal this. And and this person, his name, he goes by Frederick Lubing, he's a physicist. And they were into, I guess, lasers and all of this other stuff. And so I was kind of interested in that, and I kind of also felt like the United States was ground zero, and I should get out of here. Okay, and I'm going to jump a little further even after that. About August 29th is when my husband died. Okay, and I strongly believe, and other people believe, that he was murdered. Okay, he wasn't murdered technically by the government. The family is Mexican mafia, but some call them white collar Mexican mafia, meaning they're over 100 years old. There are some that are in law enforcement, detectives, Department of Water and Power, fire department engineers, meaning they've been around, but they still keep that kind of lifestyle, but on the low. And it's kind of a cultural thing. You don't really give it up. Anyway, my husband, he was on parole, and basically because of his addiction, he had a breathing capacity of only 30%. So he had to go around with the oxygen tank. And his mother, she's 93 now, gave him, while he was at her house, which he was supposed to inherit. It's a mobile home. We're not talking anything really expensive, more like a tin can. But she gave him watermelon with chili on top of it. And he started to suffocate and choke, and then subsequently died. And they claimed it to be a heart attack. You know, the proverbial, let's just cover it all up and just call it a heart attack. And my husband had always warned me that his family was going to try and kill him. And basically it would be coming from his older half-brother, who is basically a detective and has access to like FBI intel information or reports. I'll give an example. When I would go to a therapist and I kind of made a report, and then the therapist reported it to the FBI, and the FBI kind of were hiding but listening to my conversation, he knew about it. And most people don't have access to that, and the FBI did not give it to him. Okay, but he had always had access like that. So, okay, see, it kind of takes a lot of energy to kind of get all of this out. But what happened is when my husband was killed, I got scared and jumped and was very terrified and afraid. And Frederick Lubing kept offering, why don't you come to Sweden? Why don't you come to Sweden? Why don't you come to Sweden? I was kind of looking into it, thinking about it. I'm like going, you know, kind of half and half. But when that happened and when that came down, I jumped at the offer and left almost all my belongings and then just basically split. Okay, but that was like the saying goes. I went from the fire into the frying pan. This is where it hits. I'm trying to figure out which is more controversial. Okay, so Frederick Lubing, he's a physicist, he's a military vet, he's also a TI, but he would lie about it. And then he would scream and yell at you and get angry and tell you not to talk about it, so on and so forth. And then also, for some people, they're not going to understand this. He's also BDSM, but that usually means something to do with the occult. And I'm from LA. I didn't take it seriously. I kind of think of it like a lot of Angelinos. We just kind of think, oh, this is theatrical. It's just, you know, kind of drama. Who cares, you know? Which I shouldn't have done. I should have taken it more seriously, but it's a conceptual thing. Anyway. I stayed there for basically 6 months, and he has connections with Aristocracy. He's got other people that are in the medical, but these are people that also call themselves captains of industry, and they are in the upper echelons. And when we're talking about, see, my perps are gonna start freaking out when I talk about this stuff, and they'll start trying to attack me. And my perps now are the Swedes, okay? These are the government Swedes. He's got 2 handlers, okay? I have no loyalty to these people because they're trying to kill me and my family as a form of revenge. And over Morgellons, okay? And, okay, now that I've said that, but I want to say this. The thing is, they acted like they were so outraged and how dare you, and we're such, you know, upright people and blah, 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 blah. And Sweden makes their own Morgellons. They have their own victims, I could name the person. I've never met them in real life, but they were talking about it. They've had interviews like with Roxy, I think it's Roxy Perez, with the Truth Denied, something like that. But they make their own. They even brag about how they can take the nanotubes and twist it and braid it into the shape of a rabbit, so on and so forth. And I've found, also noticed, there are Morgellons sufferers all throughout the Scandinavian countries like Norway, Switzerland, Germany, Spain, Brussels. I mean, the list, England, the list goes on and on and on. But that was one of the reasons, or the pretense, for attacking me and then seeking revenge. And but I think what they're doing is they're trying to look for a cure. But I'm sitting here going, you know, I'm an American. We're genetically different than you are. And if you're doing this off-planet stuff, I probably more than likely have nothing in common with you genetically. So that's part of it. The other thing is that I found out there is a way to capture, because a lot of people have been doing a lot of disinformation. You can get the equipment. The gentleman who did my scanning, his name is John Kingston. He's out of Utah, and it's out of AAA security. I went straight to the house, to the horse's mouth, so to speak. I can't remember the analogy, but anyway, the phrase. When I found out I had the exclusive federal use frequency with a 239.99, and Shayla from Alliance to End Targeting, she goes, if you could tell me the frequency, I can tell you which equipment to get. Okay, so that's how that started. And then when I went through it, I looked it up through FCC and FCC, and also some of the documents I'll show you. Under the federal, where it's only government, federal, it has FM radio, TV broadcasting, and also aircraft communication. Okay, so I found out. I went and looked it up because I learned a little bit about scalar waves. I have a medical scalar wave piece of equipment. They have a transmitter and a receiver. And I started realizing my head was a receiver. And so, you know, other people are trying to say this is holographic. I kept saying, no. This is real time. This is like a YouTube video you seeing streaming, and it's going straight into my head, and I get to see my perks. I get to see, like, as if I'm a soldier out in the field. I can see my commander and my team, and they can talk to me. That's exactly what's going on. But they escalated it and gone higher level, especially with the public or civilians, and they've turned it into a torture mechanism. But even more than that, if this is a holographic universe, and if we're talking about off-planet or interdimensional beings, this is the playing field I'm on, but it's happening in my head and possibly on more than one level. Okay, so I found he has the equipment, he has government equipment, he's licensed to do this. It would require 3 days to do it, and then, but it's $5,000 a day, $15,000. It would be admissible in anybody's court system. That's great. Not only that, all of us can go out and get a TV broadcasting piece of equipment, but we need to make sure that it's going to capture the 239.99, those frequencies. He can do that. He can also modulate it so that we, the public, the world, can see it. This is extremely why my perps, especially the Swedes, go really crazy, off the Richter scale, ballistic, angry, upset, because they're spending all their time trying to hide, you know? This is also the same thing. Frederick and his group of friends, his BDSM, the aristocracy, and the doctors, and I believe even the military, they know that the countries, the industrialized countries, have their mind reading surveillance technology. They're reading everybody's mind, so they know who's lying, okay? So, but then they can't disclose what they know. So what they do is they go and blackmail them. And they didn't just blackmail him. I believe they threatened them on some level, on their level, because I hear stories about how they can make a planet, crush a planet, make it disappear, and make people, species, just erase them. You know, this kind of permanent type of disappearing, dying, being killed. And so they're scared. But I believe that's some kind of off-planet military. And I know Trump has basically been doing a lot of things He's been talking about the Space Command, and then even got NATO to talk about it. So I'm very glad for that. I know what you're doing also. So I'm very glad for that too. And I kind of believe it's kind of like a woman who's pregnant and as her water has broken. We're not going to have much choice. It's not going to happen for very much longer. There's going to be disclosure. We're going to have it, you know, because I'm not going to simply be killed and just have this game and the luge. And then I know that they do some kind of cloning on the other side, even with the government Swedish perps. I believe they're cloned. And I do believe that they probably do. I call it our spiritual body, our astral body. They clone it, but they're doing experiments on it. So, and yes, it is torture. It is definitely torture. This is worse than whatever I had before. And it didn't include my family. I used to think I was alone. And they did it all as a form of revenge. And I'm like going, you don't have, what they have is baseless, is groundless. They can't do it because Morgellons exist everywhere. It's part of the UN Agenda 2030. I looked it up. It's also, they considered it the environmental sustainability, blah, blah, blah. You know, and they just keep putting more stuff through the air, the aerosols, the food, you know, the whole thing. But I also believe, I've believed for a very long time, they're terraforming the planet, but not for humans. For other, I call it terrestrial because I want a general broader scope because I do not believe everything is from outer space. It can be interdimensional. And also there can be, from what I saw in the very, very beginning, there are so many, there's so many, not just many, there's so many different kinds of experiments that it's basically, it seems limitless. That so much has gone on and has been happening behind the scenes. Right now they're flashing me. That's another one of their tactics, which we all pretty much know about. They've weaponized lights from the cars, and that's their way of trying to shut me up. Pretty much that's it in a nutshell. And I don't know. I'm kind of surprised, shocked that I managed to get through it all. Oh, and they also included, they managed to tag San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Department, my ex-in-laws. They have become TI, and I didn't know that until all of this in July of 2014 blew up in my face. But I left in approximately October of 2012 for to Sweden. Sorry about that. And I was there for 6 months, but I was asking for an extension. And, you know, like a lot of Americans, we're very, very extremely naive. And I think they use that against us. And, you know, we think that the rest of the world, especially civilized, you know, industrialized countries are like us, and they are not. They are absolutely not. So I don't know what else to add.
Yeah. So what dates were you in? What dates were you in
Switzerland?
Sweden?
I keep saying Switzerland.
Yeah,
I think they're doing
Sweden.
that to me on purpose. Sweden, yeah, because at first I didn't know Switzerland even existed.
Yeah.
I thought it was Switzerland. But
yeah.
they pay homage to Switzerland. Switzerland, you know, CERN is a big deal to them. But anyway, it was in about October of 2012. I came back in April of 2013, and I was in San Francisco. I went back to San Francisco.
Right. And could you spell the name of the physicist that you went went over there?
Yeah. ERNST, Ernst. Frederick.
ERNST, Frederick Ernst.
Yeah, but he spells it with a K at the end, just a K, and then Lubbing, Lubbing.
Lubbing. And what city or town were you located in? Was he located in there?
He's in Stockholm, Sweden.
Uh-huh.
And he's living in a home he had bought for his mother. But she's in a nursing home. She's probably in her 90s too. Also, she might be. They live longer over there.
Yeah, and so were you the sole kind of TI under his control at that time there?
You know, what I'm realizing, see, they had planned this before I came along, and he was interested if any of the old TIs, the old timer TIs, there was a Jennifer Crawford, and her father is CIA out of Missouri. And she will tell you if she disappeared when this all happened, when this all came down. But he was more interested in her, and I do believe that he had access to other technologies because I saw him. And he was dealing with, in my opinion, which were frequencies. But I'm going to tell you something else. This is where it gets really controversial with the TI community. There was someone else there. Derek Robinson was also chasing down Jennifer Crawford. I saw her. My perps saw each other. They all see each other. They look at each other, don't say anything. They're very quiet, kind of cold, and then go about doing their business. Yes, Derek Robinson's out of PAC. When it was freedom from covert harassment and surveillance, before Darlene Miles wrecked that. And but you know,
And
my
so what?
opinion.
And so what role did Derek Robinson have in
In
this?
my opinion, he had a little, I call it a posse. They were chasing down Jennifer Crawford and trying to attack her, chase her. So this is a different level. These are kind of some of the activities that go on. I believe I call them MK Ultra victims, but I call them older generations. And she used to talk about, this is the other part of the controversy. She used to talk about Laura Eisenhower. She didn't like Laura Eisenhower. And then she would talk a little bit about Lindy Fleeman. She worked in a prison system here in California. She's up north, but she no longer works for them, but she is a TI. She's something. I call them middle people, but the technology is used on everyone. Okay, so that's a misnomer to think only TIs get hit with the technology. That's not true. That is absolutely not true.
Okay, when you say the technology, are you talking about the DARPA smart dust? Are you talking about Morgellons, or are you talking about something else?
I'm talking about the Psychotronics, where it comes in a package where they're using the V2K. I don't know the term for when you're getting the real-time, broadcasting images of your perp. So that's why I give it a package, the name Psychotronics, meaning it comes in a package. And to me, when I hear people say, oh, I just get V2K, that doesn't sound real. It doesn't sound true. It doesn't ring true. Why would they just give you voices? And to me, that's not trauma. That is not torture. When you get the images and then seeing them attack your family members and stuff like that, that's the tragic part. You're getting the V2K, which is also part of the artificial intelligence and also part of what they're calling the sentient being, the conscious sentient being. I believe it's exactly like Morgellons. It's just on a larger scale. You got the really tiny, minute you can't see, and then you got the AI, which they're trying to make it into the collective, the hive mind. And then we have my government perps, which are FBI, CIA, DHS, San Luis Obispo, which are
So the government perps are FBI, CIA, and who else?
DHS.
DHS.
San Luis Obispo, yeah, and San Luis Obispo, SLO for abbreviation.
Right.
And they're experimenting on the dead. They have underground bunkers. I've seen them. I've seen them in my head. But anyway, I think you could probably take somebody that puts you under hypnosis or whatever to get all the information from your mind. But I believe they also, when you're dead, I don't know, I just believe when you're dead, they can retract or extract a lot of information from you. And they were doing.
You mean from your corpse or from your soul? Which one?
Well, that's kind of interesting because I think you can still do it with your corpse because his name is Stuart McDonald. And he's a commander now, but a commander of the coroner's department within the San Luis Obispo County Sheriff's Department, and they are doing stuff with the dead there. They are.
With the
Not
corpses.
just the soul.
You
Not
mean
just the soul. Yeah, they've
with
been
the corpse.
yeah, but they have been capturing the souls. And I do believe he's got family members that are captured or trapped in this also, that are dead.
Right. Now, could I just go, so you were initially sort of brought into this with a DARPA smart dust, right? And that is when you went to try and retrieve or try and claim or look at the body of your sister who may have been murdered. And that was on what date again?
Well, she committed suicide in January 12th, so approximately 3 weeks later. And
of what year?
2009.
2009. And where was the morgue where you went? In what city?
It was called something Blue something. It's a morgue, but I was actually going to the sheriff because I believe her body was also there.
Right.
And I'm going to say something that might, I don't know for whatever word, but I do have psychic ability. I wouldn't say they're super strong, whatever, but I do have them. And, you know, when you're dead, and then also when my sister passed, it just went up exponentially.
Yeah.
And so I'm just, and the sheriffs were freaked out by me. They were scared of me because of that.
And so where did this happen in the state of California, but where?
Yeah. It's up north. It's about 325 miles up north on the coast of California, and it's called San Luis Obispo.
Oh yeah, San Luis Obispo. Okay, good. And you said that there was a particular morgue technician who came over and hugged you. Do you remember his name?
Yeah, he was a deputy coroner at the time, and his name is Stuart McDonald.
Stuart McDonald. So, and he came over and did that hug, which was the transfer, the apparent intentional transfer of the DARPA smart dust. Right. And so that was the transfer of the transhumanist weaponry that you would say, correct? Right. And so from there, what happened between there and Sweden?
Well, I was going back home, back into LA, and just started noticing the weird feelings, going, what's going on? And they wanted me to think it was something because of my sister, and I had some of her property and stuff like that. You know, they're constantly always looking for a cover and to discredit, and it was always them. And then they would not allow me to mourn the death of my sister. But I do want to go back. When I was there and I was on their property where the compound is, out of politeness, kind of like when you're mourning and, you know, that kind of thing, I gave him a packet.
There are these strange lights, which are like, there were these purple lights that just signaled in at the roof of the interior of the car. Is that part of the signaling? Or,
you know, I'm kind of curious about the purple because that's been happening when I started becoming friends with another TI who gets attacked through cars, and his name is Howard Fisher, and he's in the East LA area. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. And then they'll put people around me, and then, like I said, they'll put the flashlights, the headlights, trying to bug me, distract me. They're parking people next to me. Their cars are open, door open. They'll do several things.
Right. Right. Okay. I didn't want to. So when you say after this smart dust, when you say they started, is this when a whole new telepathic reality started in on you?
Well,
You know
see,
what
I have
happened?
psychic abilities. So what happened is when I kissed him a little peck on the cheek as a thank you kind of thing. Um, this is where my psychic ability is, and then I would consider myself a physical medium. When I touch something, I can get information, a lot of information. And when I touched him, he works with a lot of dead people, and that's what I seem to, my body on a physical level reacts to. And so it was like a big bright light, you know, the beam light hit me, and I felt like I was elevated. And I somehow, I don't even remember how, I turned around, I switched, and I was facing where the morgue was, where the people, because even at the morgue, the people told me, don't touch the walls, don't do that, because you're going to take them home with you. I'm trying to be in contact with my sister. I was there with her the whole time. I even videotaped it. But anyway, and then I turned around, I looked at him, and I wanted to touch his hands. Okay, yeah, they're acting up. Because if I touch your hands, I can read a lot of information. And I can get a lot of information, but I didn't do that. But what happened is when I touched him, it was kind of this big electrical thing, and I can hear his other coworkers, the other deputies, all laughing because they watched his reaction. Like somehow, I'll let whoever, whatever, you can interpret whatever you want, his reaction to that. And it was very electrical, okay, for lack of a better phraseology. And I can hear them. And that was part of an automatic, but I already had psychic abilities. So they were using that as a way of trying to segue and say that it was psychic. You know, just part of the psychic. For a while, I was accepting it because that's what I'm used to. And, but after a while, I knew something was up. It wasn't right. And then they were also not allowing me to mourn the death of my sister. And that was the start of it. And I do believe the Morgellons, the sensors, it's so that they can, on some level, because he would talk to me when I was sleeping and just kind of trying to get a response out of me. But it was kind of, I guess, in a sense,
Yeah.
entraining my mind.
Yeah. Sorry. Who would talk to you?
Stuart McDonald. He is like my original handler, for lack of a better word.
I see. So that Stuart McDonald then transferred the smart dust and then became your DARPA smart dust TI handler, basically.
I believe his boss, one of his bosses, told him to do that.
Yeah.
He didn't have, I don't think he had a lot of knowledge about it. I think in some ways he was learning.
Right. Okay. And at what date did you go to Sweden then?
It was sometime in October of 2019. I still have the paperwork, but I'd have to dig it up.
No, it was October 2012.
Yeah. What did I say? 19?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So did you contract so you contracted Morgellons with the smart dust, not in Sweden, correct?
No. Nope.
With the smart dust.
Mm-hmm.
So Sweden, so how did Sweden get in contact with you?
Well, Frederick is the one. And at that time, I was eating organic foods. I was becoming a vegan, and that was like the healthiest I'd ever been, even before I was a TI. And Dr. Staninger, she was using another term, and so I started using that term, which was hypertoxicity, which my government Swedish female perp always get really sarcastic about. And but anyway, that's what happened. So that's how I kind of presented it. And so I don't ask me the question again.
Yeah. See, I'm trying to determine how it was that you went from the control of Stuart McDonald to the control of Frederick Ernst Lubbing in Sweden.
Lubing. Okay, they could all be in like a room, you know, like a satellite. Everybody kind of has a space.
Yeah.
My San Luis Obispo, Stuart McDonald's over here. Frederick is over here. He's got his other people. I also, when I made a written complaint about my original perp, which is Stuart McDonald, I went to the FBI, and every time I make a complaint, all I did was get more. I get them as a handler. I have FBI as my handler now, and she basically would control Stuart McDonald. But anyway, so it was her, another one, and I believe even some of his friends. One of them was Sharka. Her name is Madame Sharka, something like that. She's a dominatrix out of the Czech Republic. And then there was another one, and she was another dominatrix. She's out of Los Angeles, and she goes by Nicolette. She's a blonde. And this is what I mean by I'm an Angelino. I'm from Hollywood.
Right. So that Stuart McDonald, so what you're saying is that Stuart McDonald and Frederick Ernst Lubing were actually both in this kind of telepathic network.
Right.
And they were sharing you as a TI. Basically. Is that it?
Yeah.
I see. And so you were sort of transferred as a TI to Sweden.
Was I?
Sorry?
Yeah, there was another thing. Frederick was having me trying to do the meditation with the chakras, you know, and he would tell me to do the colors.
I see.
And I would go outside, and I did that, but I was trying to reach outside the earth, and I did, you know, because I tried to reach my ancestors.
Right.
And when I did that, I got someone else, and that's when I realized we have military, off-planet military, pretending to be alien. They would let me see this alien kind of fake facade with this kind of grayish, thick skin. And they were acting very, very polite to me, very, very nice. There were also other Swedes that were lower level, and they were telling them to stand down and not to be mean towards me. I also had Lindy Fleeman there. She did not like Frederick Lubing. Not Frederick Lubing, sorry, this is Freudian. They're Freudian. They're both the same sign, but they're different years. They're both, I did follow Chinese astrology and regular astrology.
Yeah. And
they're both
and who is Lindy Fleeman?
So Lindy Fleeman is another kind of a TI, but kind of chases after other TIs, and then basically victimizes us and tries to get us killed. Because I believe
And is she U.S. based or Sweden based?
U.S. based. U.S.
I see. Okay, I'm just going to have to state that, just for legal purposes, that all of these names that you're mentioning about other TIs, we'll just state them as that. You're just stating that as an allegation. Okay.
Okay.
Just from legal point of view. Okay.
Okay.
Now, so then you were in Sweden, and did you get and so you said that you got a sense there that Frederick Lubin was operating a TI apparatus that reached up into the Swedish aristocracy and kind of the establishment. What are some of what is the basis for you saying that, and what are some of the names or institutions that you came into contact with, either physically or through the V2K or the other radionics? Oh, and there was just feedback coming in, so it looks like we hit a very significant question. Go ahead.
Well, he also told me a lot in person, live. So that's why I know a lot of things. And then these same people, but he actually added people. That's when I got them electronically in the, the upper echelon, so to speak.
Yeah. Do you remember any names?
Yeah, Carl Ryberg, and he was
Carl Ryberg.
Yeah, they
Okay.
spell it with K. He had
Yeah.
another Carl who's an MD, and I can't remember his name. And they stress me out. When I get super stressed, I get a block.
Yeah.
I do have PTSD, and that started when my baby sister passed away.
Yeah.
But anyway, they'll try. You know, it's all there to try and discredit and say that it's all psychological, blah blah blah, which is not true. But that's why they call it psychotronic, and it's psychological warfare on top of it. And I believe there's another one, psychiatric warfare. Someone found a declassified piece of paper. Another American TI, Kristen Conklin. She's been interviewed by Ramallah D. Very, very smart. Kristen? Kristen. Kristen.
Yeah.
Conklin, Conklin.
And is she from Sweden also?
No, she's in Florida. She's an American, and she's an electrical engineer, and she was working for a nuclear plant when they decided to turn her into a TI.
Okay. Now, what is very interesting from our News Inside Out Exopolitics TV point of view is that we have done several journalistic investigations and run a number of articles and stories with regard to women, Swedish women in Sweden, who have been targeted by pedophile networks, who have captured their children, and there is a pedophile network within the courts, within the legal profession, and within the quote child protective services, so that women who are either going through divorces or who somehow lose their children or come up or have some kind of incident in their lives, the quote child protective services, in alliance with the courts, in alliance with the legal profession, will capture the children and turn them over to any pedophile or to a pedophile network, which I think is probably allied with the unlawful targeted individual network. Does that ring any bells to you in terms of the experiences that you had either in Sweden or elsewhere? What are those connecting dots?
Well, he used Morgellons as a way to say, you exposed my family, my grandchild. I barely had any contact with anybody. I was in the boondocks. And also they're using all of this while they have their internal fighting, okay? Because technically he's got two handlers. One is a civilian, one is a government. And that to me is unusual. It's extremely unusual. But they're the type, because they're all medical, all connected to the Nobel Prize winning stuff, have families, doctors, all connected, long lineage of all of that. And they will I believe they took Frederick, and knowing he's a TI, as part of their experiment, and then also to learn what they can and then sell it to the elite. Also tagging me in this situation and giving all this information on the upper echelon so that they can grab even more medical, not just from me, but from America, all for the elite. And my government, US government agency perps are basically bending over backwards for them. And that's when we've been getting everything, just everything topsy-turvy, everything's been turned upside down. And Frederick was the one with the connection to the Russians, okay? Frederick would brag about them. He would talk about atomic bombs, some of the weapons that the Russian had. He had a girlfriend that was a Russian spy. He would post it up on Facebook. He's basically now, at this point, because he put in the complaint, but I believe it's a complaint that goes out to the alien terrestrial level. This is a court system. It's a different hierarchy. So that's why some of the stuff you said rang bells. And I'm thinking, thank God somebody knows what I'm talking about and what I'm really going through and how I'm really suffering. This is not your normal stuff. I mean, I would prefer the old stuff. Not only that, I would prefer my family not in it. But they're trying to go after the babies. They're threatening to go after my nephew because he's my favorite, and he's got 2 baby infants. And they're also putting and trying to do the laws and say it's A-okay. And you already see what's going on with Trump and the Democrats. Okay, and they, you know, to me, I mean, they loved Hillary Clinton. They wanted to have Hillary Clinton. Instead, they got my government first. Okay, since it's international, that's how I'm going to get the CIA. You know, that's how they get involved. Okay, they're trying to do their attack. That's their way of getting my attention. I have a little bit of a headache.
Yeah. There have been intermittently purple flashes, white flashes, different flashes in the car around and behind you.
Okay.
That's what's occurred. And when I asked the question about Sweden, there was a definite loud audio squeal feedback in my earphones. So that's the kind of interference with this type to happen. Now, with regard to Frederick Gooding, his civilian and government controllers, do you remember their names?
Yeah, Carl Ryberg. He was a psychologist.
Oh, right,
and
Carl Ryberg, right.
Yeah, he was a psychologist, and also he was a martial artist. He was, I believe, not Dutch, from Denmark, but he was also in the military. And these people know the system. Let me put it to you that way. And they're connected, and they know the system.
Okay.
And,
now the interface to the extraterrestrials and to the Swedish interface to the extraterrestrials, so far as you've seen it through remote viewing or psychic, do you think that is number 1, Draco Reptilian, number 2, Orion Gray, number 3, some other species? I'm getting a squeal in my right ear.
Yep. That's when they were triggering my brain, my mind, and it was the Greys.
It was the Greys, right? So it is the Orion Greys. Now they are part of the secret treaty network that was signed starting in 1933 with Franklin Delano Roosevelt in Balboa, Panama, aboard a battleship. They signed the treaties with the Orion Greys, Draco Reptilians, and Anunnaki Greys, which set up the kidnap systems, which set up the whole network of this torture. And then it was in 1948, the treaty was re-signed with Harry S. Truman, and then in 1954 with Dwight Eisenhower, and then again with in the Tau 9 Treaty, following the GreyETs Treaty in 54, was with George H.W. Bush, Bush 1. So that ties into the Greys, and that ties in with Sweden being the nexus between the US and the Soviet Union, or Russia now. Does that ring any bells?
With Sweden, they are, let me put it to you this way. They're very two-faced, number 1, but apparently their alliance with America and the crimes that they've been committing throughout this relationship has been since the beginning. And also they were hiding a lot of the Nazis. Like, for instance, Frederick's father, I don't know if I mentioned this, but he was an actual SS officer. But what's unique about him is he faked his death and then was smuggled in through Denmark. That's why Denmark is super extremely important. And then later migrated to Sweden, because Sweden was a haven, basically a retirement home for the Nazis. And they're the ones, like Frederick would tell me, they made the gas for the gas chambers. They were taking the Nazi soldiers through Sweden, through the Red Cross train. So they used their neutrality to make, they were in line, they were in bed with the Nazis. So they got
Right.
themselves protected, unlike a lot. But
Yeah.
they're getting kind of freakish mad at me now.
Yeah. And they Adolf Hitler and the Nazis signed the treaty with the Greys, the same one the Americans signed in 33. They signed it in 36.
Yeah, Hitler, from what I hear, went to Argentina. So there's a lot going on in the Americas.
I actually saw physically the hotel where Hitler first stayed with Eva Braun when he landed in Argentina.
Well, they're kind of like coming in, going, they're trying to intimidate me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now let's kind of segue to this. Do you want people to be able to contact you so you can have correspondence with people?
Sure.
Is that something? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
no problem.
how can people contact you?
Well, I'm on Facebook, and I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and under Nina Benita, Benita Gonzales, Gonzales. Different. Most people have a Z. I have an S, like in Sam, and which is like the Spanish style. But they can find me on there, and I communicate with a lot of people and with a lot of groups. I'm kind of branching out to Instagram, but I just started that. And I'm not hard to find, in other words.
Yeah.
And I'm on YouTube too. So.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So like what kind of we're going to publish the PDF scanning report and perhaps some of the other information, and perhaps in the future as things develop, you can come back and give us an update, because this has been a very, I think people are really going to begin to understand what the covert network that preys on us human souls is like, because this is a reptilian gray network that is preying on us, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G, not P-R-A-Y-I-N-G. P-R-A-Y-I-N-G is what we human souls do. We're divinely oriented. Do so. We have to make a strict distinction between we human souls that are being victimized and tortured. So we look forward to your coming, at some point. But do you have some final thoughts that you'd like to leave with our audience?
I mean, besides the fact that I want this exposed and shown on a higher level, and like I've been saying to the other TIs, I want a seat at the table, more than a seat at the table. I want to be able to have my voice heard. I am not their cattle. I am not their chattel, number one. Number two, I want to know about the real lineage, about all of it. I think there's a lot more going on. That is my intuition. And I'm not afraid of them. I will face them. And I am going to find a way to cure the Morgellons. They don't want that, okay? They want to make it worse, and just, it's annoying. It's just very draining. But I am pursuing that. But more than anything, I want him to stop, P-R-E-Y-I-N-G. They are not, Americans don't own us. Nobody owns us. We are not their property. I don't care how many treaties they wrote. I don't care that they exchanged technologies. I do not care. We're not, they use the petrol oil. Instead, they use us as a bartering system and a fuel, or whatever you want to call it. And even my American perps are very sarcastic. They'll take a piece of the body, the electrical body, whatever, the spiritual body, break it off and feed it like they're feeding dogs. That's how they are. But it doesn't matter. Either case, I will face it. And I'm more than going to face it. I'm going to do my best to stop it. And I'm tired of the hiding. If I have extraterrestrial lineage, I know that they threaten, oh, we want to know who they are because we're going to kill them and exterminate them and, you know, wipe them out of existence. I'm still going to go. I'm going to still. It doesn't matter. And I think that we all need to know that. And I think also we're more than what we look like or what we appear on the surface. And I know that they're sarcastic, and they were saying to my American Gov perps, oh, your DNA is with monkeys. It's like, you know, well, who cares? A monkey, in my opinion, is better than you are. Okay. That to me doesn't mean anything. You know, it means very little, has very little relevance. But that is my personality. And but I want to go further. And also, they're acting a little weird, and they're crowding me. But I think they're using the Greys as a means of getting closer to me. And because apparently I must have some kind of feeling for them, and I don't know why. But I'll figure it out, and then I will get back to you. And then also, when I do talk to other people, I learn. And so when there's other people that have knowledge, it's extremely important to me. It's extremely important. But that's what it is. And I also need people to know this is the reality. This is what they're facing. It's not going to be simple. And this is the next step. It's the next phase. There's a couple of phases, and they're going to have to face it. You know, it doesn't end here. Everybody thinks, oh, it's just on this level. You know, this 3D is almost like a 1D type of situation. No, it's worse. It's worse. And you do need to care. You need to really care, and you need to bother. So that's what I'm trying to do, because, you know, if they're supposedly so superior, why do they have to be in hiding? And why don't you just let the 7.5 billion people here on this planet know about it? Simple. I mean, that's simple math. They won't do it. So, and I won't bring up God, because they get really bent out of joint when I do that. So, you know, I mean, if you're God, you would create your own universe, your own parallel universe, your own Earth. You could do anything. You wouldn't be slumming it here with us. You know what I'm saying? Or trying to take us over, or the whole shebang. So that's what I start to know. There's a few things going on, but I do believe there's going to be disclosure, because David Wilcox is talking about it. Stephen Greer, you're talking about it, and I'm talking about it, but I'm not super famous or anything like that. And Trump is talking about it. NATO is talking about it. So that to me is extremely important. And knock on wood, that says it right there. This is a reality. We're not talking. It's not a flat Earth, etc. So on and so forth. So there's a lot more to it. I guess also I think flat Earth is a psyop.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know, thank you so much, Nina, and thank you so much for your strength, your endurance, your integrity, your vision that carried you through here to bring out this truth. We're going to be publishing this and sending it out to all of our channels, and feel free to upload this to your channel also.
Okay.
And Godspeed.
Okay. Thank you. God bless. Love you. All that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.